Did you know that Henry Hill's first arrest had nothing to do with cigarettes or with their illegal sale? In Martin Scorsese's beloved biographical mob film, Goodfellas, Hill's first encounter with the law was at the tender age of 16. It's about the only thing in the film that stayed true to the actual event. How is the movie different from Hill's boyhood baptism into the life of crime? And why would Goodfellas, a movie based on true events, diverge from fact? Why would any biographical film do so? We'll take a deeper look into why, but first, here's how Goodfellas changed the details of Henry's first arrest, and, in my opinion, made for a more compelling story. Goodfellas introduces us to Henry as a boy in his teens. He watches the local mob from his house across the cab stand where they meet nightly. He is fascinated by their lifestyle, being respected by everyone and doing whatever they please. He hopes to someday join them. He gets the chance to work for the mob when a cap regime from the Lucchese crime family, Paulie, hires him to be their errand boy, parking cars and doing odds and ends for Paulie's many businesses. Soon, Henry begins committing petty crimes to impress Paulie and Tutty. One of the jobs is arson, a not-so-petty crime. He is committed to do anything for his new family and for his new lifestyle. His big break comes when he is given a chance to work under Jimmy Conway. Henry is partnered with a rather younger-looking boy named Tommy. The two are given a new job, selling fenced goods. Cigarettes, to be exact. And this is where we see Henry get arrested by two cops. This is also where Tommy manages to sneak away and inform Paulie that Henry's just been busted. Henry is brought to court. When asked for the names of who he works for, he gives his name and nothing else. This is a pivotal moment in the young boy's life of crime. It earns him the respect of not only the boss, but of the crew's good earner, Jimmy Conway, something that was said to be difficult to do in real life. Jimmy tells him the caveat to never give your friends away and to always keep your lips sealed. If you've watched Goodfellas, you understand why earning the crew's respect, and Jimmy's in particular, is vital for a kid starting out in Paulie's crew, and the movie highlights the importance right from the start. In one fell swoop, the movie has tied Henry, Ray Liotta's character, with Jimmy Conway, Tommy DeSimone, and Paulie. At this point, the story has already drawn you in. Like the mob that lured young Henry. However, unlike this moment in the film, the reality of Henry's real arrest had nothing to do with cigarettes. It didn't involve cops picking Henry up from the sidewalk, and the boy with him wasn't Tommy. It can be argued that the real events of Henry's first arrest lacked Hollywood luster, but by all means, you be the judge. Here's how his first arrest really went down. In real life, 16-year-old Henry, who by this time had been working for Paulie for 5 years, was out with Lenny, Paulie's youngest son. The two boys had used a stolen credit card to try and purchase snow tires for Tutty's wife. The purchase fell through, and the boys returned home to find two detectives waiting for them at Tutty's house. From this point on, the events mostly run parallel to the movie. While being questioned, a rather harsh interrogation at that, Henry provided only his name, and it was Paulie's lawyer who helped get Henry released on bail. One character in particular, Jimmy Burke, who is the basis for De Niro's character, now sees the young Henry in a different light, one that is full of promise, one of greater things to come. From this point in Henry's real life, he, together with Tommy DeSimone, who is the basis for Pesci's character, go on to live a real and very lucrative life of crime, earning the reputation as good earners, as well as a coveted place in Vario's crew. Those were the events altered for the movie. Now, had the movie been yours, how would you depict Henry's arrest? Did Goodfellas make it better? And whether it did or not, why would Scorsese diverge from fact in a movie based on a true story? Movies based on a true story tend to be criticized by people who have lived the story or have borne witness to it. They expect the story to unfold the way they remember it. What moviegoers may not realize is that the movie based on a true story is not a documentary. Had the movie been done exactly as it happened in real life, there is a risk of being boring. How many times have you fallen asleep in class watching a documentary film? Movies are made to blow you away, to inspire, to fascinate. Movies based on true stories should do the same. And like any good movie, the unknown or unexpected is what can spell the difference between a blockbuster film and a box office bomb. To an extent, changing the order of events, embellishing certain points, adding or removing characters, all of these are not only allowed, but frequently done in such movies. And in Goodfellas, Martin Scorsese and screenwriter Nicholas Pileggi modified Henry Hill's first arrest because Goodfellas isn't a documentary, after all. Scorsese portrays the events as close to fact as possible, then applies his creative take on the story. The result is a movie that works even better than a documentary-style picture, capturing the audience's imagination while effortlessly furthering the plot. Henry's first arrest was an excellent opportunity for Scorsese to link the other significant characters all together from the very start. It is a brilliant technique that keeps the story engaging, yet close to the truth. To be precise, the introduction of both Tuddy's wife and Paulie's son would have led nowhere. And here is where the director applies his own vision of the story. There are other scenes in the movie that are executed in this fashion. The murder of Billy Batts, for instance, doesn't take place on the same night as the shoeshine insult. Scorsese is known to mix up the timeline for creative purposes. It is something that makes Goodfellas a classic. It is one of the most significant plus points in the film. The opening scene is a thrilling depiction of a murder that is tethered to an event halfway through the movie. It makes for a better story to focus on the three main characters instead of introducing Vario's son, Lenny, and Tuddy's wife, Mrs. Vario. Doing so would have raised the question of how to introduce the other main characters. It would have necessitated a separate scene for that purpose. That would have added another 15, maybe 20 minutes to an already long film. Studio executives would demand a shorter runtime, and you would thank them for it. Continuity, cohesion, flow, relevance, entertainment. These are why Goodfellas, a movie based on a true story, diverges from fact. The scene was excellent. The criminal bonds of work, friendship, and greed were founded in that scene. It served as a starting point from which the rest of the story would unfold. What matters most is that the story at its core remains true, and Goodfellas does a pretty good job of keeping it real while keeping the audience glued to their seats. There are many other scenes that are not 100% accurate. For starters, Henry and Tommy weren't childhood buddies. The two boys didn't start out at the same time. Henry was 7 years older than Tommy, and likely a bit shorter. Henry didn't go to a double date with Tommy when he met his future wife, Karen. And Karen, portrayed by Lorraine Bracco, wasn't driven to the cab stand by Tommy when she went to accost Henry on the sidewalk. It was Lenny who did that. One source says that while Henry may have dreamt of joining the mob, but once he was in it, he had thought about leaving, all while getting deeper and deeper into trouble. And another source says that it was around the time Tommy came into the picture that Henry wanted out. This isn't hard to believe at all, considering how Tommy was too much of a miscreant, even for the mob. It is believed that Hill joined the military for this very reason, which is another event not to include in the film. However, again depending on your source, it is more widely accepted that he was simply trying to evade the Senate investigations into ties between labor unions and the mob. Although the movie never depicted scenes of a Senate investigation, Henry mentions it in one of the movie's earliest scenes. Another divergence from fact is the murder of Billy Batts. As we've mentioned, the time that elapsed was not depicted accurately. The way it was done in the movie was for optimal impact. No time passes from when Billy insults Tommy to when he is pummeled to death. You don't have to second guess why. You are kept in the moment. This is done on purpose. It's the Scorsese touch. Aside from the scenes I've mentioned, what other scenes do you think Goodfellas changed for the better? And if it was your movie, what direction would you take Hill's first arrest?